on a Sunday. I'm Sahana, an adoptive parent and co-founder of Pragna, which is an adoption support group. I welcome you all for today's live panel discussion. Now, what is this panel discussion all about? So, we have been receiving a lot of queries and doubts regarding HAMA, which is Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, which came into existence in 1956, and about the CARA, which follows the JJ Act, which came into existence in 2015 and which is effective since January 2016. So there is a lot of confusion and doubts regarding whether HAMA is correct or whether CARA is correct. What are the risks? What are the challenges in both of them? So today we are going to burst some of these confusions and also guide our viewers on the right path of adoption. So with this, I would like to welcome our eminent panelists. So Ms. Banu Ravinder, she's an advocate and expertise in civil litigation appeal, writ petitions, matrimonial disputes, and so on. And along with Banu, we have Ruby Naka, who is the director and founder of Hope House Foundation. It's a charitable organization that has been helping with adoption and fostering in India since 2006. He has been working with child rights and child protection since many, many years. Welcome, Banu ma'am, and welcome, Ruby Naka sir.
Thank you.
So, without much delaying about anything, so I want to, put up the first question, which is very, very commonly asked to us is Hama and Kara both are coexistent. So, but the what exactly people want to know is how they are legally different. So, I would love to hear Bhanu ma'am first and followed by Ruby sir on this question.
Okay, good morning to all. HAMA, as you know, is Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act. I would say that this, even prior to the act, it is the oldest act. As you rightly said, it's been in existence in 1956. And Hindu adoption is not new to anyone because it has been there from time immemorial. We have had royal families, lot of royal Hindu families adopting children, and a lot of Hindu parents adopting Hindu children. Now, the only the advantages were that it would be within the family, so you're not adopting a third party child about whom you do not know the parentage or you do not know the ancestors of that child. However, HAMA also has its drawbacks in the sense that you cannot have a family study done, you cannot have a legal hold on after adoption process. So these are some of the drawbacks. But however, as I started by saying that HAMA was the first and foremost law which legally recognized adoption and ensure that some children could live in a better off family. There were certain conditions for adoption under HAMA. HAMA only said that adoption can be only among Hindus, non-Hindus cannot adopt, and there were certain, and the children up to the age of 15 years can be adopted, who 15 years of age can be adopted, and a male cannot adopt a female child, and that only one child can be adopted. So these are the conditions under which HAMA works. You do not need a court order. Earlier, how things were done was that under HAMA, they were performing what is called a Datta Homa, where the adoptive parents would hand over the adoptive child, the parents of the child, the natural parents, the biological parents will hand over the child to the adoptive parents by way of a Datta Homa, which was recognized. But now a registered adoption deed is required, which you register before the concerned sub-registrar, and even that is valid. The rest of it, how valid it is, what does it require, and what is under CARA will be discussed under different heads.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Ruby sir, would you like to add on something to this?
I think ma'am has answered it so well. I really don't have much to add in terms of HAMA, and ma'am being an advocate. I think she has answered all the aspects of the HAMA quite well. The only you asked a question about the difference, isn't it? HAMA and
Correct.
JJAC.
The legal difference, basically.
Yeah, basically, as ma'am said, HAMA is only meant for Hindus. Who can give, who can receive is only among the Hindus. But whereas JJAC being a secular act, any person in India can adopt a child, whether it is a Hindu, Christian, Muslim, anybody can adopt. That's the main difference in terms of HAMA versus JJAC. But as far as HAMA is concerned, what ma'am has said is more than adequate, I think.
Okay, thanks so much. So I need to take a break from questions, and I would like to welcome Pushpalata ma'am. And she couldn't join on time with us for some technical reasons. And I would like to introduce her to all of you. Pushpalata ma'am is a social worker, and she's an MSc in psychological counseling from Bangalore University. And she's currently working as a coordinator with Government Shishu Mandira, Bangalore. Welcome, Pushpalata ma'am. So our next question goes to Pushpalata ma'am. Actually, like, what are the key advantages and disadvantages of CARA? Like considering its approach and regulations being centralized. Like being centralized is like beneficial for all, or is there some kind of drawbacks or some lagging over there? Pushpalata ma'am. Ma'am, I'm sorry, we are not able to hear you. Uh, I'm still not able to hear you, Pushpalata ma'am. I'm so sorry. Uh, can you check your audio? It's like, and just get back. And meanwhile, I would like Ruby sir to answer this question.
Would you mind repeat that question to me, please?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So we want to know like what are the key advantages and disadvantages of CARA, considering
Okay.
its approach and regulations, which is being
Yeah.
centralized.
No, doing it under CARA, as I said, anyone can adopt under JJAC. When you say CARA, it is basically adopting under JJAC. So
Right.
if you are adopting under JJAC, the first benefit and advantage is anyone can adopt a child. And the second thing is uh, it is done in the best interest of the child. So every process that is stated in JJAC that is governed by CARA are primarily done in the best interest of the child. And of course, the entire process is online. So anybody can register, from any corner of the country. There is no need for anything to be done. So CARA has brought in a lot of transparency in terms of governing adoptions. From what I have known about 20 years ago to what it is now, they have brought in a lot of transparency, which actually makes the adoption much more, what should I say, reliable. And the final advantage is there is a court order. Of course, now it is district magistrate's order
Correct.
given to the family, which is a legal document which the family can take it to the government to apply for a birth certificate. Following that, everything else will come. These are the some of the major advantages of adopting under the JJAC governed by CARA.
Okay, wonderful. So the next what we want to like to know is how do Kara and Hama address the issue of this transparency in the adoption process? Like what measures are like taken in place to prevent any kind of illegal or unethical processes? So Banu ma'am, would you like to
Yeah.
answer this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, it took almost 60 years for the government to frame a law regarding adoption. In 1956 was the Hindu law, and 2015-16 was CARA and the JG Act, which came into existence. So even now, I'm not sure how many people are really aware of CARA and JG Act, is one point. Now, the
Mhm.
second thing is CARA came into existence because of increase in child trafficking and children going into wrong hands, and also to have a uniform process by which people of all religion can adopt. Because under earlier, when HAMA was there, none of either for the Muslims or Christians or Jews, there was no law, no personal law permitting adoption for them, unlike the Hindus. So they have
Mhm.
to go to the court of law. But under the court of law, under the Guardians and Wards Act, what they get is the ward, not a child, not an adopted child. They only
Mhm.
become a guardian of a ward. So to streamline that and to permit people of all religions, they started, the act came into enactment came, which was CARA, which is the JJ, under JJ Act, all adoptions are permissible now. Now, regarding transparency, in what is the transparency between HAMA and CARA would be, I would say that CARA is totally transparent because it happens online, number one. Number two, of course, CARA gives in adoption people who are orphaned, abandoned, or surrendered. Okay.
Mhm.
So now what happens is they may not require, you may not know the ancestry of the persons, you may not know the family background of the person, but you need to know the family background of the adoptive parents to ensure the welfare of the child and see that the child goes into the correct hands. So in CARA, there is a transparency as far as that is concerned, because you make an application. After that application, a home study is done. In the meantime, foster care is given to the adoptive parents, and they are being monitored by the institution or the adoptive agency and the court from which the child was given. Unlike that, under the HAMA, what happens is it is either among the relatives or among friends or among family members, the adoption takes place. And like I said, either a Datta Homa, now Datta Homa is not compulsory. What is compulsory is just an adoption deed. So even though it may be within the family, within relatives, there are chances that the child could go into the wrong hands, but there is no way of monitoring the same. So the transparency under CARA is definitely much more than the transparency under HAMA.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for clarifying this. So, ma'am, my next question goes to Ruby, sir, in understanding about like how different is Hama and Kara in terms of the eligibility criteria. Because culturally, you are already answered, I believe, like it was Hama is meant only for Hindus and Sikhs and Jains like that, but it was not meant for Christians, Muslims, and Jews and all. So now, so how is this? Eligibility criteria, I want to understand in terms of HAMA and CARA, like how does it go? Like what is the clarity on
In,
that?
in terms of HAMA, as you correctly said, there are only two criteria. One is the person should be a Hindu,
Mm-hmm.
and the second one, the person should be an adult, and that's about it. And they should be in the right mind. But as far as JJ Act is concerned, there is a list of things that have been said. They should be financially sound, they should have good health, and they should have certain age. There are these are the some of the, and even single parents can adopt. It is not required that the person should be married. Even those who have biological children can adopt. Those who are living abroad can adopt Indian children. So these are some of the eligibility criteria that are stated in JJ Act.
Right. Thank you,
Can
sir.
I just add a little here?
Sure, sure, ma'am,
Yeah,
definitely.
JJ Act also permits you to adopt up to 3 children. Under the HAMA, you can adopt only one child. And under the JJ Act, the age is about 18 years you can adopt.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for clarifying this. So, I think Pushpalata ma'am is back, and ma'am, I hope now you're able to hear us. And but unfortunately, we are still not able to hear you. You are not audible, ma'am. Um, Okay, I'm sorry, I cannot put my question to Pushpalata ma'am anymore. Like now, so what is, in your opinion, does the centralized structure of CARA, lead to better monitoring and regulation of adoption process, or like does it create more bureaucratic hurdles and delays? Like we're seeing, the waiting time is literally being stretched to 3.5 to 4 years now. So, what would you like to say on that?
I think it is the delay in getting a child. I don't think it has anything to do with the process itself, but I think it is more to do with the availability of the children.
Mhm.
Where there are fewer number of children, the supply and demand equation basically, and there are large number of parents are being registering on the portal, and there are fewer number of children that are available for adoption because, ma'am, as she said earlier, there are certain groups of children only can be declared legally free for adoption.
Mhm.
abandoned, surrendered, and orphaned children only. So there is a very, very strict scrutiny in terms of identifying who is abandoned, who is surrendered, who is orphaned to declare legally free for adoption. So fewer number of children come into the stream of adoption. And the second reason that it gets so long is the preference of the parents. They're very particular about what they want, which is not wrong. So then again, the process gets long. So if only, they can lower their expectation a little bit, like, for example, if they're open for special needs children, if they're open for older children, if
Mhm.
they're open for either of the genders, the process can become shorter. But I personally feel these are the primary reasons for the process to get longer. I don't think uh, CARA processes itself leads to delay or
Mhm.
lengthier wait, but I think these are the primary reasons I think makes the process longer.
Right, definitely. It does make sense actually. Because I can see the frustration in the parents, like it's been so delayed. But that's the reason why we are here today, and Pragna is conducting this panel, like interview, so that people understand like what are the basic reasons behind all these things which is happening. Why is this delay? But the process is not wrong. Process actually under place, and it's been well placed actually in the best interest of the child, right?
Correct.
So, so, what do you think, Banu ma'am? There are the potential drawbacks of the decentralized nature of adoption through HAMA, like in terms of maintaining consistency and standardization across different regions or states.
What exactly are you? You just clarify that question?
Yes. So the question says that what is the
Yeah,
potential?
I saw that question, but I
Yeah.
need to understand what is it that you're looking at
So what
for
we
me
need
to
to,
answer.
yeah, sure. What we want to understand from this question is like Hama is like you said, it's between families, basically families, known families, may not be relative though, right?
Hmm.
And so if it is decentralized, like suppose for example, like a family who is staying abroad and they want to adopt from India, like within their own family. So what is the impact and how does it happen? Like does it have any kind of rules and regulations or some kind of scrutiny which is being done? So how does that impact?
Definitely. See, see any intercountry adoption, whether it's an NRI, OCI, anything, any person who has to take the child abroad now, as per the law, as per the rule, even if they have adopted under HAMA, they have to get an NOC under the JJ Act. They have to get an NOC from the district magistrate before they can take the child out of the country. One.
Hmm.
And then there are certain requirements where it says once the child is given under foster care and then the child is given as per court order, the parents or either of the parent is expected to live in India for a period of 2 years.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
So there is
So,
this
yeah.
criteria of the number of duration they stay in the
Yes,
country.
yes. So they have to stay here. So if they are, so what happens is if they are genuinely interested in the child, in the interest of the welfare of the child, they may
Mhm.
have to make some sacrifices, like living in terms of, with the child in India to satisfy the government rules, to satisfy the legal requirements, and then take the child abroad. Sometimes these could become a hurdle. So earlier it
Mhm.
was just an adoption deed, and you take the child. But then considering the larger interest of the child and the welfare of the child, and considering that the child could go away from the country, so we do not know how the child would be taken care of there, whether as a child of the family, whether it could be used as a maid there. You do not know. So under those circumstances, the legal requirements of CARA, decentralizing some of the rules of HAMA, are definitely in place.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Pushpalata, ma'am, you are there. Can you please switch on the camera? Okay. So, what are the financial implications which is associated with adoption via CARA and HAMA? Because the CARA is like very particularly specified, like what is the exact amount, what is the fees to be paid, like during the home study and during the, like the foster care when you take, and once you get the order, now it is from district magistrate, not the court. So everything is specified. So, what exactly is the happens in the HAMA? Like, how is it different? So who would like to go? Because I think Pushpalata ma'am is not able to connect with us.
Okay. See, under HAMA, there could be no give and take. Like I said, it is earlier, like I said, it was among the royal families. So royal family, there could never be a give and take. Now it is under all families where there is an adoption process. There is no give and there is no take. But at the same time, understand that law also does not prohibit the give and take. Law also does not prohibit the give and take under HAMA. Whereas under CARA, like you rightly said, there is a specified fee. That fee needs to be paid. And CARA also says that no donations are to be given to the
Correct.
uh, agencies. So they have banned donations. Even if it is a voluntary donations, no form of donations are acceptable.
Correct. So I think our next question is also like almost answered where I was about to ask, like, are there any notable differences in terms of adoption costs, subsidies, or financial support provided to adoptive parents? So more or less you have answered. Like, is there anything that you would like to add to this, ma'am?
Regarding the financial implications,
Yes, yes.
see, the thing is, under HAMA, no home study is done, so you do not know the financial background of the couples who are couple or a
Mhm.
single parent who is adopting. Whereas under CARA, a home study is done. So home study will not only take into consideration the spouses, about the spouses, their personal background, their moral background, their family background, but also the financial background to ensure that the child is in safe hands and a relatively good financial support is given to the child.
So there is a lot of confusion, and a lot of people come to us saying that it is said that we need to have some kind of financial bond made in the name of the child. Only then, like this adoption will continue, or like that. Like we need to make an FD or an insurance or something like that.
No, that
So
was in, yes. Go
that
ahead.
was
See,
for HAMA. It was valid, or like how? Because I want to understand.
I think Ruby sir wants
in
to
in
answer. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
in
you please, sir,
JJAC
please.
basically in JJAC basically it says the family should be financially sound to be able to take care of the child, and the principles of adoption says that the adoption is done in the best interest of the child.
Mhm.
But there is nowhere it says that this amount of money has to be put in FD or anything to receive the child. But it all depends on the person who is doing the home study to understand if they're going to be able to take care of this child or not, because child is coming from a traumatized background, and they do not want to put the child in a situation where his best interests are not looked after. So it just says that the financially sound requirement is to be fulfilled, but it does not say in terms of the fixed amount of money that they should have or fixed amount of money they should put it in the bank as such. I'm talking about in terms of JJAC, but ma'am can answer that in terms of HAMA.
Right. Ma'am, you would like to answer?
Yeah, like under HAMA, there is no specification of saying that you do this, you do that, except that they talk about property and the inheritance, which says that you cannot de-inherit a person who's having a natural right under the act. And then once you also adoptive child also has a right. That's about all. It does not speak about any provisions for the child's future, either in terms of an FD or either in terms of a property or either in terms of an LIC policy. No, nothing.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So the next question, which naturally comes to me to ask you all, is like, how do Kara and Hama address the issue of the birth parent rights and the involvement in the adoption process? Because we fear, like like we adoptive parents, like many adoptive parents fear, like what if someday the birth parents come and they want to claim the rights? Then how do Kara or Hama, like secure these things? Like how does this work?
In JJ Act, once the adoption is completed by following the entire diligence process, once the order is received,
Mm-hmm.
it is irrevocable. Even if the biological parents come to claim the child, it cannot be reversed because they have followed so many steps and there are so many checks and balances to ensure that the child is not removed from the biological parents by allurement or any of that kind of things. So that's why I said there is a child welfare committee which ensures that the child is genuinely, legitimately eligible for adoption. Only then they are declaring the child legally free for adoption. So once all the processes are followed and the DM's order is received, it is irrevocable. But ma'am can order in terms of HAMA about that part.
Yeah. See, under an additional hello, can you hear
Yes,
me?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm
An
here.
additional point under CARA would be that there is a continuous observation for a period of 2 years after the court order is passed.
Mhm.
So, like Sir said, Ruby Sir just now said, under CARA, it's only the abandoned, surrendered, or orphan children. So what happens is, in case of surrendered children, they take an affidavit, go to the police station and to the agency. They take an affidavit from the parents that they are surrendering the child, and then they are given about 2 weeks time even to change their mind, to see if they want to get back the child after having surrendered the child. So that
Mhm.
happens in the case of a surrendered child. Once such a document is taken, then there is no question of the biological parents coming back and asking for the child. And like
Mhm.
Ruby sir said, in case of abandoned and orphan children, they are there with the agencies, and the rules and regulations are followed. And once a court order is passed granting an adoption and a decree is given, and based on the decree, a birth certificate is given nowadays. So once
Correct.
a birth certificate is given, there is no going back by the biological parents to ask back for the child. Under HAMA also, the Datta Homa, if it is taken place, and there is a
Mhm.
registered adoption deed which is required now. Earlier it was
Mhm.
not. Now a registered adoption deed is required. And now once a registered document is done, in HAMA, the document is done by the biological parents or
Mhm.
by a guardian or
Right.
by a court appointed guardian.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
once a registered document is done, then the role of a biological parents is only to the extent of handing over the child to for adoption. Beyond that, they cannot reverse back the adoption unless and until, like we always say, and Supreme Court in all cases uses the word paramount welfare of the child, where the child
Mhm.
is a minor. Unless the paramount welfare of the child is being, I have not come across cases like that, but law may permit them to, if the biological parents are looking at their child who has gone in adoption being misused, I'm sure
Mhm.
the law will always permit them to go and approach the court of law,
Right.
considering the welfare of the child.
Correct. Correct. Makes sense. Right. So, Pushpalata ma'am has joined back again. So, my question goes to Pushpalata ma'am now. Like, what kind of support, like CARA is providing? Because I see like lot of parents being very confused and sometimes really frustrated that we are not able to reach out to CARA. We are not able to understand what is the waiting number. So, would you like to tell, like, what is the post, it's like adoption support they are giving, pre-adoption and post-adoption support which we are receiving through CARA. Pushpalata ma'am, you're there? I think it's really unfortunate that we are not able to hear you at all. Uh, I'm so sorry. I'm feeling really bad, but it's like we're not able to hear you at all. I'm so sorry. Again, I'll have to pass on this question to either Ruby sir or Banu ma'am. Like, who would like to
You're asking about the follow up after the post adoption follow ups, am I right?
yes, post-adoption follow-up also, and at the same time, pre-adoption support from CARA.
In
Pre
terms
and
of
post
under
both.
JJ Act, in terms of pre-adoption support under the JJ Act, as soon as they register, there is a home study that ought to be done by a
Correct.
nearest specialized adoption agency. They go and do the home study and give a report uploaded to the carings portal, and from there on, basically there is a bond developed between a family and an adoption agency, and the adoption agency will answer all the questions that are pertaining to the adoption, and that is all the support that the adoption agency can extend to the family. But post adoption, wherever the child may be placed at, the child has to be followed up for 2 years after the child is placed in a home. In terms of HAMA, I'm not very sure. Probably ma'am can answer that question.
See, under HAMA, the care, it actually, because HAMA, as you say, it is among Hindus, it is among the families or relatives or friend circle that this adoption happens. So there is no kind of a follow up that can happen under HAMA, or there is no home study.
Right. Okay. So there is one more question. It's like I think I would like to ask personally because this came to me from someone I know. Like they had done a adoption, I think, through HAMA long back, and their question was like, how does it work with the step parent adoption in HAMA, and how it works with CARA? Like CARA now we know like we have something called as step parents can adopt, and relative adoption is also there. So how did it happen with HAMA? Because I think they have done with HAMA sometime back before I think the JJ Act 2015 was formed. So there's something that's going on with them, and the step parent adoption involved, and so just want to
So
understand
I
how it
don't
works with HAMA.
I don't understand. I didn't understand the question. What is it that they are looking at?
So basically they want to understand like whether the stepfather can adopt the child, like because
See, so I is has the stepfather come into existence because of a divorce, or has the stepfather come into existence because of the death of the father, the natural father? Because if the stepfather has come into existence because of a divorce between the parties and there is a second marriage, consent of the father is definitely required for for an adoption.
okay. hmm Fine. I think this has they. I'm sure if they're watching this, they've got their answer now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So let me come to my next question. Okay. So how do CARA and HAMA handle cases involving children with special needs or disabilities? And are there any specific provisions in place to support the adoption of such children? So I think this is specifically with HAMA because I don't know in HAMA whether special need adoption used to happen or not. So, ma'am,
See,
I would like you to
like
go first.
I have to repeat my answer. See, HAMA is a very controlled. It's a very small area of adoption where only Hindus can adopt. Within the family you adopt, or from outside the family and friends you adopt. So it will be your personal. What is it that, supposing there is a family who says, yes, I have enough money, I would like to support a child with a special need, and whatever the needs of the child may be, and give it a better life, because the other family, my relative, is not financially well off, or that they're not very well educated to cater to the needs of the child, then I would like to adopt that child. So it is purely personal. There is nothing legal about it. Whereas under CARA, when you ask for a child, the preferences are sometimes given to ask you, saying, would you like to take this child with a special need? Instead of considering A, would you consider B?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Got
But
it.
under HAMA, it is
Mhm.
purely your decision.
Correct.
Nothing can be
Correct.
forced on you. Not that on CARA you can force it on a person. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
force it on a person.
Correct. Correct. Thank you. Thank
And if I
you.
may add,
Yes, sure,
if I may
sure,
add one
sir.
more,
Sure, sir.
if I may add one more point, in under JJ Act, the classification of children with special needs is very clearly stated. And you know, earlier adoption agencies used to have their own doctors to give the diagnosis of the child that is to be passed on to the adoptive parents. But now they have, in the last amendment in 2022, they brought in a provision called chief medical officer, who has to certify, that is a government appointed doctor
Mm-hmm.
who has to certify stating that so and so meets the criteria of the JJ Act in terms of special needs. Only then that child would be classified as a special needs child in the carings portal.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So since you have brought up the new amendments thing, so I would like to know from you, Ruby sir, like can you discuss the policy change updates on the CARA, like which has positively impacted and a couple of them which have probably negatively impacted?
I think the CMO thing definitely is a positive thing. Of course, it took a little long time for the CMOs to be appointed because they're all government doctors. They have to be appointed by the state government for every district. So this is a very good thing in my personal opinion because, see, adoption agencies having their own doctors declaring the child's diagnosis, sometimes there is a room for abuse. But now having a government doctor who is appointed by the state as a chief medical officer to declare the child as special needs child on the portal actually brings in a lot of transparency, which is a very positive thing. A negative thing, I think, definitely, there's a lot of debate in the country in terms of DM's order
Correct.
versus the court order.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a now court order in Maharashtra, stopping the DM's order for temporary period of time, I think. But this is something I'm not to judge, who is the best person to give the order. But I think there is a confusion who is the right kind of a person to give a certificate. Is it a court or is it a district magistrate? So this is in the court of law right now. So unless until that is finalized, I think the adoptive parents are going to suffer in the process. So this is one of the negative implications of amendment, I would say.
Okay, thank you so much. So, thank you so much for answering so many questions that I asked. And now I think we will move on to our it's like viewer questions. So, we have a couple of questions in our chat box, which I'm going to read out, and either of you can go ahead and answer that, like whoever finds it like relevant for their particular expertise. So, I'll just go ahead with the first question, which Anaga is asking. Like, if we are looking to adopt within the family, should we opt for CARA or HAMA? So that's the question.
if 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 they ask me, I would definitely suggest to go under the JJ Act because there is a defined process that is to be followed, and there is a certificate that is granted by the government authorities, and there is a grievance redressal. If in case the adoption doesn't work, there is a process for the child to be taken back to. These are the reasons that I would suggest that they should go under the JJ Act than HAMA.
Banu ma'am, what would you say?
I would also definitely recommend CARA because, even if it is within the family, say, for example, the parents are looking at relocating to a different country, then at that point in time, they'll have to come running to the court or under the JJ Act to get an NOC from CARA before they can take the child. And being a governmental agency, I'm not complaining, it could take its time. Okay, so it could affect their future also.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, straight at the time of adoption, if they are able to follow the legal process and get it done, and for their satisfaction, get a datta homa or whatever it is done, and follow the CARA process and get the child, like Mr. Ruby said, they give you a certificate, take a birth certificate, because which is vital now, everywhere they're asked for it,
Right.
and get a passport for the child. It will definitely be CARA.
Thank you. So moving on to our next viewer question, which is asked by Bhagya Manantaraman Arvind. So she's asking like, so when people adopt a child from a poor family under HAMA, where they are not related to the birth givers, what are the consequences? Also, can't such cases be filtered? So
What are the consequences, and
uh, can't such cases be filtered? I really didn't get it, but
how can you filter the case? Because here they say the child which has gone given in adoption has gone to a poor family, or they've
yeah.
taken from a poor
Taken
family.
from a poor family, I think.
Okay,
Taken from a
I
poor
think
family.
I
okay.
think it's unrelated family.
Yeah,
Huh.
unrelated
Somebody's
family.
adopt.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
That's what even
unrelated
I'm.
poor family they've taken in adoption. Now, what is their
Yeah.
question?
So, maybe she wants to know like what are the consequences that I understood, but also can't such cases be filtered? That I didn't really.
Who filters them? Who filters them? See, this is HAMA. HAMA is totally voluntary. I mean, CARA is also, adoption is totally a voluntary process to begin with. Okay. So now under HAMA, the family back. See, under CARA, a home study is done of the adoptive parents, not of the child, because the child is abandoned or surrendered or an orphan. So you do not know the family background of the child. But under HAMA, you know that so and so comes from this financial background. and you choose to adopt the child. So what kind of filtering are you looking at?
I think this question is connected with someone else also. Like there's one more lady, she's asking, HAMA can be done between friends also, right? And only registered adoption deed is okay. No other procedure needed.
Hmm.
So this is
Yes.
what she wants to know.
Yeah, this is under HAMA. Like again, we repeat, in case you want to take the child out, in case you want all of that, legalize the process is CARA, JJ Act.
Okay,
But if
correct.
you are going to be here, you do you an adoption, registered adoption deed, not an unregistered, registered adoption deed.
Correct. So Bhagyam is asking again, like, but there are a lot of judges who ask for an FD or investment and also put it on legal adoption certificate as a clause. So is that like how do we address that? She's
See, how
asking.
do we address that issue? Is there are two ways of addressing that issue.
Mm-hmm.
One is sometimes it could be purely judges discretionary. I cannot discuss it openly on a discussion, but where we have, it just depends on the judges. Sometimes they would even, I would even say that if it is an adoption of a boy, sometimes the judge may not insist on this. But if it is an adoption of a girl, the judge may become a little more protective and say, yes, give an FD, give an LSC policy, do this to ensure the child's welfare. So that
Mm-hmm.
also happens. Even with the differentiation in sex, it can happen. That could be purely the judge's discretion. Then it
Mm-hmm.
is up to the lawyer there to say, see, if the parents, adoptive parents, have no issues about it. Okay, you want me to do it? I am genuine about my adoption. I want to take care of the child, give the best for this child. They may go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and do it. But the lawyer also can argue before the judge that the act does not ask for any of these
Correct.
things. So you have
Yeah.
no right to ask for it.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So there is one question which comes over here, and this is related to some case which happened in UP, I suppose. So they're asking in Feb this year, there was a case somewhere in UP,
Correct.
not sure, where a court had ordered the adopted child to be returned to the biological parents after the rape victim, that is the biological mother, married the perpetrator, and the two claimed that they wanted their child back.
Yeah.
See, in the adoption guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
it says that if in case there is a sexual assault and if the case is filed under the POCSO Act,
Mm-hmm.
CWC can declare the child legally free for adoption. If the petitioner of the case is the victim, basically she's against the perpetrator and she's filing a case on POCSO Act. So, based on which the CWC could declare the child legally free for adoption if the mother does not want the child.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, before the legally declaring the child legally free for adoption, they will have to wait for 60 days of grace period to allow the mother to make up her mind to say whether she wants the child or not.
Mm-hmm.
So they have gone through the entire process of declaring the child, eligible for adoption, and afterwards, if the victim and the perpetrator come together, I really do not know how that works. Ma'am can answer that question, but I feel that it is unfair to the child
Correct.
because he had passed through all this hoops and going to be placed in a loving home, and suddenly they're asking the process to be reversed.
Correct.
Yeah. Now this was not under the POSCO Act. She was a rape victim. So
Mm-hmm.
she had delivered the child. So the child was given in adoption with the consent of the mother.
Mm-hmm.
So then the mother decides to remarry the accused, or come
Correct.
together
Correct.
with the accused. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so under those circumstances, I'm again repeating, we do not know what goes in the mind of the child, mind of the court to pass such an order, because such order cannot be a benchmark for other orders to follow.
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, like he rightly, Mr. Ruby rightly said, it is unfair on the child to be displaced from a home which it is getting used to and a nicer place, because the judge should have considered the welfare of the child, not
Correct.
merely the biological mother.
Correct. Correct. Agree.
Because
And
she
the
may go
definition
through
of
a lot of psychological issues because of what she has undergone.
Absolutely. Ruby sir, you were saying something.
No, the definition of adoption also, says that it's a permanent separation from the
Yes.
biological parents.
Mhm.
Once I hope the adoption is not completed in this UP case that you're referring to. If it is completed and if the judge is asking the child to be reunited back to the biological parents, I certainly think it is not done in the best
No,
interest of the
I
child.
think then CARA can appeal against it.
Yeah, yeah. But, as ma'am said, judges, do make decisions, at their discretion. So,
Correct, correct. So we have another question which says that if the adoptive parents separate or one of them dies and one of the parent or the surviving parent remarries, can the new spouse adopt the adopted child? Means basically
yeah,
adopt the child of the other spouse, right? If yes,
yes.
will HAMA work in case it's a Hindu family? That is the first question. So,
I do not know about HAMA, but as far as JJ Act is concerned, stepchild adoption is very much allowed.
mhm,
There is a process laid out in the guidelines, and they're very. It's very easy to do it.
Okay. Now, as
so
far as HAMA is concerned, the first part of the question is if they are separated.
correct. I think
See,
you
once,
answered this question,
yes, I
right?
had already answered this question. So, if then the consent would definitely be required for the
Correct.
stepfather to come in.
So the second part of this question says that in the case of a separation, if the unmarried parent wants to give up rights, can the new spouse adopt? What would the process be? I think it's the same answer, I think, what you
They
said,
have to
right?
again approach through the court of law to seek permission for her to give up her right and then the other spouse to take up the child.
Correct. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Then we'll move on to our next question. Um, okay, so Natasha is asking, how do we connect with the panel guests to guide us if we get stuck in future with few queries and even lawyers not giving proper answer?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they can write an email to me, and I would be happy to answer them. And if I need to call them, I'd be happy to call them also. There's no issue with me.
Sure. So I hope Natasha, you got your answer.
Yeah, because as a lawyer, follow some professional ethics. So if they are already with a lawyer, it's not right for me to guide them. We like different doctors treat in a
Correct,
different way,
correct.
different lawyers. And any case for that, not just adoption, even if it's a matrimonial divorce case, somebody comes and asks me for an opinion, I don't give them unless I say, you take back your case from that lawyer and come to me completely. Because it's not right for me to guide them, because it's my perspective, my way of handling things. So as a lawyer, as a professional ethics, so if they have some questions unrelated, if they have no lawyer and they ask me and then they choose to go to another lawyer, it's fine with me.
So with this, I will also like to add to the viewers that if you have any concerns, if you have any queries, you can always write to us on our Pragna handles, whether on FB or on Instagram. Then we will get you connected to the right people who will be able to help you out, like our panelists. So we have many more panelists and many more people in our team who are ready to help people who are stuck or who are in trouble. So, moving on to our next question, it says like, I know a few families who have just adopted through HAMA from some poor people in villages. They preach to parents who are waiting to do it and not wait on the CARA list. So, is it legal or, like how to deal with it? So, some people who are doing it through HAMA and they are kind of pulling the people who are waiting in the through CARA to not do it. Then go ahead and do like this. So,
Yeah,
this is legal or illegal, so how to deal with it? So
No, so long as they have not completed the process, I think anytime they can always drop out of the adoption process. It's not at all mandatory for anybody to register and complete the process.
Mhm.
If they want to drop out at any time, they want to drop out. But I do not know how people would know that so and so person is registered on the portal
Correct, correct.
unless until some insider in CARA passing the information to somebody, which I think is very troubling. But otherwise, I don't know how anybody would know, or unless until myself registering and telling others that I have registered on CARA and I'm
Mhm.
waiting for my process to be completed. There is no way for anybody to know. But as I said, if somebody wants to drop out of adoption process under JJAC, they can do it at any time.
Correct. So
this is a fear for me that it involves some implications of finances.
Absolutely. I
You
was
know,
about to say that.
people could be spreading word of mouth. They could be
Mhm.
agents also. So like you rightly said, Mr. Ruby, how the information goes from CARA saying I have registered in CARA, how would somebody know? Like there could be an insider for money. You pay some clerk in CARA and say give me the list of these people from this locality, then I will tell them that this is available. So there could be exchange monetary concerns there. That's a concern which maybe CARA has to take up and say that once you are registered here, you cannot do it under some other law.
Correct. And also, I would like to add on to this. So please correct me if I'm wrong. Like when they're going with this kind of way, like going ahead and adopting some child from a village or somewhere else, but there is no, it's not in the best interest of the child somewhere, I feel, because the person who is doing it, like there is no guarantee that what's going to happen to the child, and you never know that the birth parents may come up some other time saying that we didn't know what's going to happen. Like there have been a lot of cases, I think, which was in Hyderabad, which happened a few years ago. Like there were a lot of child trafficking which happened, and it came out in the public, and a lot of things, like came out like that, and it was all stopped over there. Like,
Not only child trafficking. See, for example, like Mr. Ruby said, there are doctors to identify special needs children under the CARA. Okay.
correct.
So if there are no visible special needs and under HAMA that is suppressed,
Mm-hmm.
and then the adoptive parents come to know of it later,
Correct,
what
correct,
happens?
correct.
So
So there is
this
no
is where the
grievance.
advantage and transparency of CARA.
Tara.
Absolutely. So, we'll move on to the next question. If child is adopted in Hama long back and now they want to go abroad, what to do at that time?
They have to approach and get the permission from the court,
Permission.
NOC from.
And okay, right. So, okay. Somebody's asking, please share email ID. So, like you said, we can always drop in your queries to Pragna email ID, Pragna handles, and we will pass on your queries and your, like who you want to connect. We'll have a talk with you and we'll connect you with the right person.
There's a question to me which says, as a legal consultant, how can we deal with scamsters who reach out to gullible PAPs and announce that they have a newborn baby available? My answer is record their conversation. Now it's very easy to track the number and give a police complaint.
Correct, correct. Okay, so I think we are done with our questions over here. So before we conclude, I would like to ask Banu ma'am and Ruby sir, like, what would be your final message to all our viewers who's watching this, and if they have to go by Kara or if have to go by Hama, what is the one thing that they have to keep in their mind?
I think, as far as I am personally concerned, if I have a choice between Hama and JJAC, I would definitely go with JJAC because of the accountability and transparency and the finality that it provides in the best interest of the child. And I have nothing against Hama, but as I said, for these three reasons, I would definitely do it under JJAC. And the last part of it is that if in case adoption does not work out for the adoptive parents, there is a process for the child to be taken care of. The child will be the process will be dissolved, and the child will be placed in the specialized adoption agency. There's a grievance redressal process for the child. But I do not know about all these things in Hama. So because of this these are the few reasons that I would definitely go under the JJ Act.
Right. Banu ma'am.
Like I earlier said, between HAMA and CARA, definitely there is a transparency under CARA. And what I would like to generally tell the viewers is it's a wonderful thing that people are now going forward for adoption, which means more and more children, especially abandoned, surrendered, and orphan children, get a home to live in, get a family to live in. And so, in effect, we are bringing better citizens into this world and giving them an opportunity of education and other things. So, adoption, though it is voluntary, it's a big process. And hats off to all the adoptive parents who have done it. But my request to adoptive parents is only that don't go by scamsters, don't go by, agents. Go the legal way, be it HAMA or be it CARA. If you're satisfied, if you're going within relatives or word of mouth and a family which is very well known to you, HAMA would work as long as you're not going to travel out of the country. Or now keep in mind the fact that lot of children after completing school, even for undergrad, they're going abroad. So keeping all that in mind, what could be better for the child as well as the adoptive parents is to go under CARA, legalize the entire process, so that tomorrow you're not running from one court to other, or if there is an amendment to the laws, you're not running behind the courts.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Banu ma'am. Thank you so much, Ruby sir, for giving your precious time on a Sunday, which is supposed to be a me time or a family time day. And thank you so much for giving your time for the Pragna family, for all the prospective adoptive parents and the people who are looking for adoption and wanted to clear their doubts with HAMA and Kara. Thank you so much for your inputs. And I
Thank
wish
you so
you
much
Thank
for
you.
giving me this opportunity to be part of this
our
show.
pleasure, our pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Have a great day, everyone. So, with this, we conclude our live panel for today. And this panel discussion will be available on our FB channel, on our FB page, Pragna page, as well as on the YouTube channel, Mom Story by Sahana. If you have missed out watching the live discussion, you can always go ahead and watch it on our channel, on Pragna FB page, or on Mom Story by Sahana YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.